Hey there, I have a comic book unboxing today. This is another condition mystery box. I know what books are inside. I don't know what condition they're in. I'm hoping they're near mint. We're going to open this up and we're going to find out. Alright, as I mentioned, this is going to be another comic book unboxing. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I want to get to the books and maybe even grade some while we're at it. And at the tail end of 2021, there was a flurry of orders that I placed. I was trying to take advantage of inventory, coupons, and everything. And this is another order from Mile High Comics, and I talk about it as a condition mystery box because the books are listed as near mint, but you don't really know what you're going to get. Somewhere between an 8.5 and a 9.8 per book, until you bust out the books, take a look, and grade them yourself. So I want to unbox this and go through the books. I'm going to take a look at them. I've got some really nice selections in here, so hopefully you'll appreciate that. And we'll go through it. So let's unbox this and take a look and start going through the books. All right, here we go. So this is the box from Mile High. Like I have pointed out previously, you're either getting that Uline mailer or it's shipped inside this container. So there's like 4 or 5 different layers here. So let me go ahead and open this up. And when I'm checking out, I always make sure that I choose the FedEx option. You have, I think it defaults to USPS. I'm not sure if there's a default or not, but I always choose FedEx. Once you get above, it's either $50 or $65 or $75 from Mile High, then it's free shipping. So I always opt for the better option, which is FedEx, in my opinion. So here we got packing peanuts. Again, this is so that Uline mailer does not get crushed on the inside. And really, that's all that's in here. So I think that what they do is, if an order amount is above a certain value, price, cost, then they ship it this way. Packing peanuts make such a mess. And then if it's under a certain cost, then they just ship the book. They just apply a label right here and ship it out. All right, so inside we have the comic books. You just sort of unfold this, and they're always pretty consistent with how they ship, which is another reason. So you think about it, if you're ordering from Mile High, you're thinking about the cost of the books being, it's too expensive. I'd rather get books off of some sort of online platform where I got to pay $4 to ship each book. So there's all of these hidden costs and hidden fees that when you add it all up, remember, this is free shipping, high grade books. So and I've gotten some feedback too of some other platforms. I don't want to mention the platforms by name because I want to actually evaluate them myself before I start complaining. But I tried them out, and it's like one VG, one fine book after another. And they're all selling for close to, I don't want to say near mint prices, but certainly like as an 8.0 fair market value, things like that, plus shipping on top of it. I can't afford those prices in a lower grade. And what I was doing as I was watching some of these auctions, I was in the background comparing the books to GPA and some other calculated fields, and I'm like, that book has no value, 0, slabbed or otherwise, and it's selling for $12-15. And I don't understand it exactly. I know there's collectors that don't agree with me and don't like to grade books and they just want to add them to their collection, but you don't want to buy books that have no value. All right, so let me get this out of here. This is the last layer before the bag and board. Get this open. All right. I usually always sneak one or two books without a bag and board in there. Okay, so I did get one pretty substantial book in this order. Wow, this was yeah, I spent a lot on this. Okay. So I'm going to try and do these in a particular order. And yeah, I did get one. Let's start with the unbagged, or the unboarded book, I should say. We'll go with this one first. Here's a West Coast Avengers 21. All black, or almost all black cover and background here. So the significance here is Moon Knight. So if they are going to do West Coast Avengers, we have some interesting members of the team here. We have what they could potentially use, Rhodey. We have Hawkeye. We have Moon Knight coming. Tigra could make an appearance. Mockingbird, potentially from Hawkeye. We know who she is. Ant-Man, possibly Wonder Man. So there's a lot of possibilities here for West Coast Avengers. It depends if they're going to do the original West Coast or the younger version with Kate Bishop and America Chavez. So anyway, this is a good cover to have to try and get in a high grade just because of the all black, the difficulty there. And again, looks to be in near mint range. So not too bad. But this book had been spiking a little bit. So I wanted to go ahead and grab that before it got too out of control. All right, let's see here. And again, no peeking. So the big book is, I'm going to flip these over and go this way. So this is Amazing Spider-Man 315. Significance on this one, arguably Venom's first cover. I mean, there's his first head. So if there's a category for disembodied head or floating head cover, then this wins out. But this was, it's a great McFarlane cover. The big key right around here is 316. It's a classic McFarlane Venom Spider-Man cover. It's a book that I'm seeking out for my collection, but right now kind of getting all the books around it, starting with 301 and above. So this is 315. This is a great McFarlane Spider-Man from the late 90s, and Hydra Man on the cover. And again, it has that first Venom cover right there. Again, some people say it's his first cover. It looks like just a floating head to me, but got a good deal on that at Mile High in near mint. And it is, I'm looking at it again, it is, I forgot to point out, it's miswrapped. You get the solid black looking border, but that's just the back cover coming around. So some of these look like spine ticks, but it's actually the art from the other side. So I'm going to have to really get in there and see what condition this one's in. But fantastic, Amazing Spider-Man book there. Okay, let's jump to Uncanny X-Men 166. I feel like I'm buying this every time. I don't know how many of these they have in near mint. This one looks to be another copy in great shape. The last time I ordered from them, I got this one and it came in a Mylite and a fullback. This one has a kind of a yellowish backing board, so it looks like they've had this for a while. Always good candidates for pressing, but this one looks great. First Lockheed. And as I mentioned before, you've got Kitty Pryde, and if they want to do it right in the MCU, when Kitty Pryde arrives, hopefully Lockheed isn't too far behind. So I love getting this. It's the first Lockheed. I've got multiple copies of this, and it's a double-sized issue too, to point that out. So you see the dollar cover price. Eventually, over time, there's no real premium for double-sized issues. It's only a premium when it's new and when it's current. So I like to look at these too, as long as they're not square bound, because those are difficult to press and get graded. And this one's just a standard, good old Marvel double-sized issue. So I love adding X-Men 166 and a high grade to my collection for speculation on Lockheed. All right, again, no peeking over here. I see you looking to see what books are next. Amazing Spider-Man 165. This was one of the more expensive books, but I'm just buying any Bronze Age ASM I can get my hands on. bunch of dinosaurs on the cover there. I don't know too much about this book other than my spreadsheet told me to get it. It had value. So a book I didn't have in my collection and trying to fill out ASM in the Bronze Age. All right, and there are 3 more to go. Let's look at Avengers 162. So great cover with Ultron. Love all the dynamics of the Avengers around Ultron. You don't see many covers like this anymore. Looking at it condition-wise, right by Wonder Man's head, there's a spine tick there, but looks to be in pretty good shape. Some color breaking issues there in that corner. So this could be in the 9 or 9.2 range, but still a great 1977 Avengers book in high grade. All right, last 2. This one hopefully looks familiar to you. This is Avengers 232. This started popping after Eternals was released, and hopefully it's okay to talk about now. But we've got a great cover of Star Fox, and Eros is the character, and we're all figuring that based on everything we've read and heard about, that the character of Star Fox is going to be around for a little while, and appeared at the tail end of Eternals in the post-credit scene. I wanted to go ahead and grab this in high grade. A lot of these copies were snatched up, but Mile High had one. I don't think it's a 9.8 candidate. It does have some color breaks here in the spine, particularly around She-Hulk's hair. Kind of hard to see in the bag and board, but there's one right there, I think, if I'm looking at it right. So it's still a high-grade copy. This is my first copy of Avengers 232. Again, if you've been grabbing these from dollar bins, then you're a better collector than I am. I had to wait a little bit and find a deal using the coupon code to get this one in a bit more of a affordable range. But even after I picked this up, the price was not the price, but the value, fair market value, was going up even after I bought it. So it looks like it's got a lot of staying power. Okay, so this one was definitely a splurge. And again, I'm looking at numbers and I'm looking at values. So even though books are expensive, and I'm not trying to justify my purchase here, but when you spend a lot of money, you want to make sure you're buying the right book. And I picked up Uncanny X-Men 109 near mint. So this was a very expensive book. I'm looking here just casually, and I don't believe it is a 9.8 candidate. The spine looks pretty good. There's a color break right there underneath the corner box. Or this is the corner box in the character box here. I see that spine tick. There's one here that I can see. So definitely 2, a little bit of a softening around that corner there. So it may not have been a hit as far as a 9.8 is concerned. Again, looking at that corner there, again, we'll have to open it up and look at the back. But still, even in a 9.4 or in the 9.4 range, a very, very desirable X-Men book. Anytime you can pick up an all-new, all-different X-Men, you have to do it when the price is right. And again, a very, very, very pricey book, but with a 60% discount, it fell into my more affordable range. So these are books that typically, like, you'll see on heritage auctions, and they'll be listed in like a fine, like a 6.0 to very fine 8.0 condition, and they're still popping for several $100s. So I like to get these and find these. It's crazy that Mile High has these lying around. It says they're near mint. I feel like they should all be professionally pressed clean and slabbed at this point. Just a fantastic, it's just one of those classic X-Men books. And again, trying to hopefully one day get X-Men 101, and just trying to buy the books around it. And so when you can't get that one key, whether it's Hulk 181, X-Men 101, try buying the books around it and surrounding it, and hopefully one day you'll be able to fill in your run with those grails. All right, so let me go through this order. I may want to open a couple of these and grade them here too, but I want to show you the valuation here. Apologize in advance for the cost of the X-Men 109. Sometimes it feels a little weird revealing what I paid, but again, I want full honesty and transparency on this channel and show you where I'm getting the books, what condition they're in, and so forth. So let's get to the order analysis and see how I did. All right, here we go. So this is the order. Again, full disclosure, I paid $477.40 for those books, for those 7 books. I hand entered them here into my comic collection ledger spreadsheet, normalized the Mile High title and issue listings here. So you can see on line 6178, I've got Avengers 162 from 1977, and it is not a variant. And so what I do is I take the combination of the title, issue, year, and variant, and that becomes the unique identifier for the book. And this is the way that I'm tracking things in terms of looking at my ledger versus looking at my spreadsheet of values. Okay, took advantage of the 60% discount. Books would have been outrageously high without that coupon. And as we can see here, as we move left to right and look at the comparison to the cover price fair market value here, total cost all the way to the right, we can see that we'll do one more to show the raw profit. So this is the comparison to the cover price fair market value. I overpaid for these books in terms of fair market value. I don't mind doing that, though. I like to overpay. I mean, I don't like to spend more money, but I don't mind overpaying because I know these books all have a chance to get 9.4 above. And when I was starting to do some research in terms of comparing books that are available on eBay, most of the books on eBay have 0 value. They're probably a 1.0 to 3.0 at best. And I really just couldn't afford to spend the time combing through listing after listing and looking at the images. And I'm not trying to tell you what you should do or where you should buy from. It's just, why don't I include eBay in all of this? I'm starting to, but I just can't find a solid one-to-one comparison of, X-Men 109 in a 9.0 to 9.8 range, or even an 8.5 range that really compares. Most of those books are already gone or in process of grading or slabbed. So to me, it's kind of a rare thing. You're also kind of purchasing the rare case that an online comic book store actually has this book available in that high grade, just sitting there on the shelf. I'm sure there are many LCSs around the country that have the same book that would have sold it to me for $10 or $20 less, but I don't know where those are or who they are. So feel free to reach out to me if you do have those books for sale. Okay, enough ranting. Let's get into the numbers here. So again, my raw profit, I've actually lost money comparing these to the fair market value. And certainly if we start to bring in the CGC calculation with no grades yet, it looks to be a pretty hefty cost for this order. But let's start to break this down. And I think what I want to do is I want to look at a couple of the more valuable books in more detail. Specifically, I want to get my hands on that X-Men 109 and start to break down the grade on that and see what I got. But let's just say for fun and kind of working backwards here, we'll look at Spider-Man 165 in a 9.4. And I said I didn't really have much to say about it. There were some dinosaurs on the cover. I didn't really know much about it. It's definitely not a key. But here as I plug in 9.4, CGC value of this book at a 9.4 is $105. So that's why I ended up purchasing it, because even in a 9.4, it's almost a $30 value add to the collection. Let's take a look at Avengers 162. And we'll plug in a 9.4 for that one as well. Again, in a 9.4, lots of value here. We just pushed it into a $100 book range if we were to get it graded. And looking to add over $42 of value to the collection. The next one would be that West Coast Avengers. Again, fair market value of that book raw was starting to pick up. And that book in its 9.4 is $75. Adding $22.32. So as I plug in these grades, just keep your eye on this column A, B, and certainly the summary here. We've now taken away almost about $250 to $300 of a loss and added value back into the collection if we were just to turn around blindly and send these off. And I have thought about that as a weird and expensive experiment, is to take these stacks of books that I get from Mile High, maybe rebag and board them, right? Put them in fullbacks, make sure they're nice and secure and safe as they head off to CGC, and pay for the CCS pressing, calculate that in, and see what they come back as. I've really thought about it. I think the reason I don't is because I like to grade the books myself. It's just part of what I like to do with my collection, and I like to catalog them and figure out what I like to learn how to grade books. And when I see some of them get a 9.0, I don't want to send it in. And then certainly as I see a 9.6, 9.8, I'm excited. So I don't know if I could really bring myself to do that, but in theory, that's what we're working on here, is the possibility, like how feasible is that experiment, and can we take it beyond an experiment and make it more of a practice and a routine? Let's keep going. X-Men 166, you're probably bored of seeing that book, but I always love it. It's got nice value in it as the first Lockheed. $1 over the West Coast Avengers value at 76, adding a little over $23 of value to the collection. And then let's try out that ASM 315. Again, the first cover appearance of Venom. So, whether it is or it isn't, he's on the cover. And again, a 9.4 pushes that book, CGC Slabbed, into the $100 range. Now, that book cost me more, so my CGC profit is only a little under $15. It is the newest book from 1989 that I purchased. So again, you're dealing with demand and age as well as condition here. So there's that. Now I want to see, we've got Avengers 232. I think I want to save X-Men 109 for the end. But I'll plug in a 9.4 of 232, and it has $220 of GPA CGC value. Total cost was $77, so I stand to profit almost $115. So if you're looking at that book going, why did he spend so much money on Avengers 232? I was buying it before Eternals dropped for $5, and he could have bought it then. Well, I didn't. I just flat out didn't. Maybe it wasn't available. Maybe Mile High had it lying around, but not cataloged, not online, and they went and looked at it and dug it up and priced it. I couldn't tell you. I just didn't. It's just a book I didn't get. So I didn't FOMO on it. I actually just saw the actual value. And so that's what I've been talking about is you watch a lot of YouTube channels, listen to a lot of podcasts, go to a lot of conventions, go to Instagram and other online platforms, Facebook groups, and they're all talking about certain books and hyping books. Remember, they're hyping books because they have them. The people doing the hype are the ones that have the books already. So they're trying to increase value and demand for books they have. I have just decided to ignore that, and I look at something like Avengers 232 as a good example. You can still wait and there's still value. So even if a book has, I would say, an inflated value. Now, is that book inflated? I'm not ready to argue that point yet. It depends on how much you believe in Star Fox and Eros and the actor playing, Harry Styles playing Star Fox. It depends on how much you believe in all of that. Is he going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Yeah, probably. Almost certainly. I think he will be. So there's some long-term spec there too, but you can wait a little bit. Like, I've heard a lot of people say that people are dumb because they wait to see these characters and then they buy. It's not necessarily a bad strategy. I'm not saying that's what I do. I'm usually somewhere in the middle. But for something like that, and here I've been making you stare at the spreadsheet, not that you want to look at me, but for something like that, again, I don't mind waiting a little bit. I don't mind waiting for someone to discover the book in a high grade, price it accordingly, and it still be undervalued, right? If and now I do want to flip back to the values, but as you can see here, me purchasing that book for what I did, let me just slide back here. I spent $75 on that book. That's expensive. That's a lot of money. And you saw what I paid for 109. It's a lot of money. I get it. But even in that case, even if it comes back in this high grade, it's still a very, very healthy $115 profit. So good for you if you found this book in a 9.4, 9.6, 9.8 for $5, and now you're off selling it for whatever you're selling. Awesome. You've got crazy skills. I don't have those kind of skills. I like to work the numbers, and I like to let the values talk about it. Okay, enough. I do feel like I need to separate the unboxing and the analysis from ranting videos or something else. But anyway, let's get to the most expensive one. This is a X-Men 109. Again, just to back up as a reminder, I paid $210 for this book. And let's see what value I have added or detracted. So in a 9.4, this is a $554 book. So one of the things that hopefully you're picking up a correlation on is sometimes the more you spend, the more potential gains you have. And I think that there is probably an investment 101 strategy guide that you can follow that probably says something very similar, especially as we're dealing with cryptocurrency and other investment opportunities. If you are taking a small bit of money, small percentage, you're assuming less risk, it's probably less reward. So this is absolutely a high risk, high reward purchase. I have it just tentatively marked as a 9.4, but I think I want to open up 109 and maybe Avengers 232 and take a look. Are they 9.4s? Is it less? Is it more? That's the gamble. So any investment is a gamble, and in comic books, it's no different. So let's take a look at this, and then we'll come back to the spreadsheet here, and then compare the grades of those two books, and then we'll flip them all 9.8 as well, because that's always fun to see what the high end range. So right now is a 9.4. The low end, we look to add $561.43 of value into the collection if they all average out to be a 9.4. So let me switch here, and we'll go ahead and screen a couple of the books. Okay, so here I'm going to find, these are the two key books in the order, and I'm going to start with, here I'm just like throwing these around like they're nothing, but I promise I'm being gentle. So the first thing I do when I open these books from Mile High is I take the tape and push the tape back on the bag. I do not want any tape pulls happening. That has happened to me in the past, and I just don't want it happening to these books. I know that I'm going to replace these bags and boards because this sticker, although very thin, you will find that over time it will actually create a small depression on the cover once these books are in a pile or even squished together in a short box. Okay, so as I said already with the She-Hulk right here, I noticed that there is a couple of color breaking spine ticks there as you move back and forth. So already I don't believe, I mean, it certainly could be a 9.8 if it's perfect, but there's another hairline spine tick right there. Corner, I'd say it's soft but acceptable. That looks pretty good. And again, I'm showing you this so that you can see what a near mint book from Mile High is. Do they always look like this? No. Do you sometimes get 8s or 8.5s? Yeah. But for the most part, this is what they look like. So really nice sharp edge there. Captain Marvel. That also looks good. Let's turn it over. And I'm trying to go quickly too because, and I may have to put gloves on for 109. I feel like I'm going to get nervous and sweat all over it. Definitely some color rub on the back, but it's very subtle, it's very striking white. This is going to be a problem though right here. So that right there, I don't know if it's a stain. I don't know if it can come out. It looks to be some color rub. And I'll show you what I'll do to some of these books here just to try them out. To try out some of the CPR to see what that is. So let me switch over And in fact, I am going to get some gloves to work on this book a little bit. Okay, so I do use medical grade latex gloves when I'm handling books like this, and I start to work a little bit on some either just damage removal of some kind. So when I see something like this, I try and determine whether or not it's a stain or something I can get off, and I just use a basic eraser here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer so you can see what I'm dealing with right there. Hopefully that's coming in clear. So this is the line that I'm talking about, where I want to see if that is a stain or something of that nature. Kind of see it on this side too, up in here. So what I might do is just start right here. Just start in a spot where it's not so obvious, and I'll lay it like on this comic backing board, and then just kind of press down on it. And always don't want to be too vigorous with my erasing because it may pull the page up. So I'm just going to rub here back and forth and see what happens. And already it's gone. So that actual line that you see is from the inside. See here? That's from the inside red. So what has happened is some of the red, I think, is either bled through or it's just sat on top of another book. But the actual restoration or cleanup, I should say, in that area is done. So if you're seeing something on the video, well, I still see a line there. That's just sort of coming through from the art. So right there, you see a little bit of a tear. Let me get that in here. There we go. So right there is a tear. It's small, but it's certainly, again, it's not going to make this book a 9.8. Could do a little bit more cleanup. You have to be actually very, very light around this edge here because I don't want to lift this book up at all. And again, there might be a little bit of a tear there. But even just this light erasing, and you want to make sure that the eraser has like no other pencil marks or anything on it. Make sure it's basically clean white. You can also just do this on a surface just to clean it up. And you have to be very careful. Again, if you went this way, you could potentially lift the page. So you kind of want to rub away or off the page there. And I don't want to get this to be looking so specifically brand new. But there's a lot of dirt on this, and I don't think I'm gonna do the whole book right now. I'm just gonna mark it as potentially a press and clean candidate. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff there that's kind of an advanced technique that I've been learning to use with an eraser. I mean, it's not that advanced, you're just erasing. But there's definitely some dirt and things on the back that would require this level of detail, but it is possible to go ahead and get rid of that. As you can see there, that was also cleaned up right on the edge, but it's still slightly discolored up in here as well. But this eraser is taking care of it for the most part. So, so knowing that, and I'm going to zoom back out here. So knowing that it has some dirt and discoloration on the back that needs to be cleaned, I'm definitely going to mark it as a pressing candidate. But I don't think it needs a full court press. I don't think it is that bad. I think a nice, solid, quick press would do the trick. I don't know if this needs to go through the humidity bath. It looks really good on its own, or as good as it's going to be anyway. Here's another issue up here, right there on that front cover. Just a little bit of a lift. So this one, and I've got some of these shavings from the eraser. You definitely want to make sure you don't add those back to the book. So I put this bag and board aside, and I will add a fresh bag and board to it. But looking at that, what type of grade would you give a book like this? I counted maybe 3 hairline color breaking spine ticks. There's definitely the dirt on the back. There's the lift there. Other than that, I think it's good to go. So I believe that this book is a 9.4. I think it even has the potential to be a 9.6. However, the one thing that concerns me here is this slight tear right there. So that is the big one for me. It is just, I mean, it's probably a 1/16 of an inch, an 1/8 of an inch at most. I'd have to really sit down and measure it. So that's probably keeping it out of the 9.6. I would say that this is a 9.2 at worst case, maybe 9.4 best. But I feel like the copy is pretty strong. There's just again, a quick press is going to clean some of this up, but to me, like things like that, I mean, I could plug it in as a 9.2 and just say that it's a pressing candidate and just leave it there. Which I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it as a 9.2 instead of a 9.4. It definitely needs a little bit of a work, and that tear is just not going away. And so we're going to leave that as a 9.2. So let me flip back to this and show you what that does here. So in a 9.2, now we're down to $78, and I lost $27. Now, I believe that if I can get some of the dirt out and give it a quick press, it has the potential to be up to a 9.6, and that's $169. 9.4 is $220, so there's probably not a lot of data right there. So somewhere between $170 and $220 after a little cleanup. As is, it's probably a 9.2. I could be too picky. It's that tear that's really bothering me right now. But still, I'm going to give it a fullback and a bag and board because to me, I believe that it has the potential to get into that 9.4, 9.6 range, and we're dealing with somewhere between $150 and $220. And typically when a book gets like that for me, when I know it's kind of a minimum, I mean, I put some incentives I've gotten from Things from Another World in a fullback. Once I think a book already has either a fair market value above $20 or $30, or like a CGC slab value above like $60 or $70, it's worth the extra 50 cents to kind of put it in the fullback there. All right, let me switch back. So yeah, now the book is looking really nice in the fullback bag and board, and I've got it as a 9.2. So let me switch here. We're going to do one more book, and this is X-Men 109. So pull this back. Again, bend the tape so you don't get the tape pull. And here we go. Okay. All right, so at first glance here, really bright white, I would say, on the book. Let me pull back. There you go. So really bright overall presentation here. I don't see any problem on the back. Is that true? There's such a very subtle lift right down here. I can right there, if you kind of see it in the light, just barely right there. Very subtle. But the spine looks magnificent. I don't see any dirt on the back either. I mean, that's about as clean as they get, and hard to believe that this book is so old that doesn't have any dirt on it. And I'm glad I'm wearing gloves because you can already see I'm perspiring right through. I'm a sweater. So I was right about this corner. What I typically do when I see a corner like that is I see if I can kind of peel it back with my finger. See if it looks a little better. Kind of looks the same. So I think that corner is what it is. It's just going to be a little bit of a softening there. So let's look at the spine. Spine looks good. Again, right there is one of the hairline color breaking spine ticks. And then here's the other that I talked about right there under the character box. Top corner is kind of the same as the bottom, except it's not lifting back, but definitely has a little bit of a softening or splitting right there. There's a little bit of some either color rub or color lifting right there in the green, but it's not bad. That corner looks really good. No dent. And then maybe I would say just a slight overhang of this right here. And that's just it's hard to show this, but the covers, the page is just slightly wider than the interior pages. So what happens is over time, it just gets that little overhang or flap up and down. And that comes out in a quick press for sure. So as long as this book is protected and goes through a quick press. Now, these are the kind of things where I'm already kind of in for a certain amount, and I will typically send these to somebody else to press. I just don't trust myself because it needs very little work, in my opinion. I don't think there really is much cleanup that needs to be done. I think that it looks really, really great. I'll zoom in on it a little bit here. I think presentation-wise, it's fantastic. I really lucked out with this copy and got a really nice wrap. So again, we're talking about one, and this one barely shows up at all. Right there by Colossus, you can't even really see it here at this angle. And those one of those sort of disappearing spine ticks, where CGC has talked about that. If you have to really angle it, it almost doesn't count against you. I don't know if I believe that or not. So really, we're dealing with a little bit of softening around the corners, right? Definitely down here. This one by the corner box. So I think it does need a quick press, but it's a strong copy. So, is it a 9.8 candidate? No. I had to really think about that before I said it. No, I don't think so. And again, I don't get upset about it because it's not like, I mean, if I were buying 9.8s from Mile High, everybody would be at this point, or I'd be late to the game on that. But there was a little hesitation on my part where I thought, well, it could be. I think the corners are just slightly damaged enough. The spine tick by the corner box, I realize it's one, but it's pretty deep. Again, without measuring, it's could be 1/8 of an inch, close to 1/4 of an inch, maybe. I think what's bothering me too is some of the color rubbing at the top. I think there was just some dots spread out here where it's just kind of lifting. No color correction that I can see inside. You might see some things on this front cover. If somebody took to Wolverine and started coloring him in, you'd see some sort of marker. But gosh, look at that. Great, amazing John Byrne art. I'd love to flip through this book and read it, but I'd just do it digitally instead. So this was the big book. I'm spending a lot of time on it. What do you think? I think it's definitely a 9.4. I'm actually going to put it down as a 9.6. I think it is a strong 9.6 candidate as is. I think if it went through a professional press, I think it could be a 9.8. It just depends on what CGC thinks of this up top, and then whether or not that color break is just too deep. But I believe even as is, it is a 9.6. What do you think? Let me know. I spent a lot of time on this book, so hopefully you got to see a lot of it. Let's go back here and change this from a 9.4 to a 9.6. Almost $1,000. Not bad. So again, I'm not going to open up any of the other books. I think I've spent a lot of time. I'm taking off these sweaty, wet gloves now. That's really disgusting and gross. Just for fun, we can flip some of these to 9.8. Let's say 232 even is that 9.2. And you could see some of these values flipping here, like just a lot of tremendous upside here. So we know this one is not a 9.8. We know that 232 is not a 9.8, so I'm leaving those alone. But you could see why I targeted these. I mean, Avengers 162, almost $500 in a 9.8. That Spider-Man book, again, that had the dinosaurs on the front. According to GPA in a 9.8, it's $775. A lot of value here. What was 109 in a 9.8, you ask? Do we want to see it? How about I tease you with 232, $719, 109 in a 9.8, almost $2,700. So like an end all be all upside 9.8, $4,700 for this order. Now I'm going to take it back to kind of more the realistic starting point here. And I'll even turn this one back to 9.2. I understand that the X-Men 109 is carrying the order, but as it should. It was the biggest investment, the biggest risk that I took in here. So right now as it stands, this is roughly a $783.43 value add to my collection. So that's it. That's what I do. I probably spend too much money. I'm definitely crazy about the hobby. I love it. I love the nostalgia. I love the books. I love the fact that it makes me think of being a kid again. I love going back and being able to find these keys, and love talking about comics, and appreciate you watching these videos on my channel. I love the feedback. Leave some comments. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you hanging out and watching. Happy collecting. See you next time.